Welcome to What's Your Story, where we, Jamie Marco,
and Stan Brown,
delve into the extraordinary lives of everyday people.
Listen in as we uncover the unique tales that shape who we are,
one story at a time.
Hey, let's get ready to explore today's story.
Let's do it.
Well, hello there, stranger.
Hey, you talking to me?
I am. I'm always talking to you. Oh,
I'm okay. How are you?
I am.
Well, you're gonna quantify now, aren't you?
Um,
I think let me guess.
yeah.
7.25.
No, I'm like a 5 today, I think.
I'll take 6.25.
Okay, that's good. I have to travel for work this week, and you didn't ask, but I'm gonna tell you anyways. I have to travel for their work.
Good thing I didn't ask.
I know, I'm telling you though. And so whenever I have to travel, my number's a little bit lower. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to some people are like, oh, I would love to travel for work, but they don't think people ever realize like what it takes to travel for work, you know?
It's an ordeal, especially today's day of travel and uh, time of the year and the status of TSA and getting on the plane and behaving yourself on
Yeah.
the plane and ordering too many drinks. It's crazy.
I don't order too many drinks on the plane because I don't drink on the plane. I can't stand drinking on a plane. But I just, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of traveling. I know it sounds crazy. I did a lot of travel back in my early 30s.
Well, when you get to your destination before you train, are you back up to like an 8.5, 9?
When I get back to my
No.
original,
When you get to your destination because you're doing some
yeah,
training,
yeah.
do your numbers increase to get back to that?
Oh no, when I get back home. When I'm back home, safe in my house, I'm better.
Okay.
So typically about like a day or two, which is like when I'm traveling, I think tomorrow, I get a little ugh, and then I have that whole kind of feeling, and then when I get back, I feel better. But
How about when you're there?
I mean, I'm focused and I have the right attitude, but I'm still like always like I would rather be in my own bed, my own shower, and all that good
We
stuff.
appreciate your candor.
Yeah, I do. Well, today's guest, I knew, speaking of traveling, I knew when I used to live in Chicago, and he is coming to us from Denver, and I thought we'd just bring him in. What do you think? Yeah?
Oh, me? Oh, me? Oh,
Yeah, you
yeah,
want to bring
yeah,
him
I
in?
agree. I
Okay.
agree. I
He
agree.
knows two of your daughters, actually. So when I lived in Chicago, I was introduced to Michael from your daughter, Tiffany. There he is. Hello, Mr. Pottern.
Hey,
Hi. You're
Michael.
muted. You're muted, so we can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Just getting set up. How you two doing?
Hi.
Well,
It's been a hot minute. I was just telling my dad that you know two of his daughters. Dad, meet Michael. Michael, meet Dad, Stan, also known as Stan. Not as so funny. His thing always says admin, and I always change it for him. Dad, do you even realize I do that for you?
I just realized that just now.
There we go. I just changed it for
All
you.
the things,
Uh,
all the things.
what she doesn't do for me, it's crazy. Michael, nice to see you.
Nice to see you and be introduced.
It is so good to see you. I know that that is a virtual background, right?
Correct.
Okay, our listeners can't see that, but we're going to talk to you about the Zen Den and all that good stuff. But wherever
I
that is,
know we're good about
whatever that's
it.
based on, it looks amazing. I will share with our listeners and my father that one of my greatest memories of us hanging out. So I mentioned that I used to live in Chicago. I don't even know if you'll remember this. Um, but we met in Chicago. We met through my sister Tiffany and the Chicago Marathon, big deal in Chicago. And every year people would run that and go out there do that. I think Kevin was running it and we were all out to support him. And we went to this bar on Wells. And for my very first and last time, I had absinthe. Do you remember that?
I do remember it, and I remember there we had our yes. That was a very unique day, and especially if you're drinking absinthe in the daytime, on a weekend. But
It was
hey,
my first and my last time. No, but that was just, but always like when I reached out to you to be a guest, I have been following your path as much as I can along social media and seeing what you're doing. But it's incredible to know like who you were. And that would have been back in like 2009, I think, and to where you've come today. And I know very little, but I know enough that it's going to be fascinating to hear how you've gotten to what you're doing today. Listeners can't see this, but you have a really cool necklace on right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that necklace before we get started? Because I'm a squirrel and I'm like, what is that that you're wearing?
it's actually a key.
Oh,
So it actually gets me into places. I helped, was one of the founding members of this mindful social club here in Denver. And so it's a key fob that can get you into these different locations. It's part of
Hmm.
this like decentralized wellness network.
do you wear it every day?
Not every day, but like I'm going to be going into work later. So it's just nice to, yeah, have
That
this.
is okay. We need to dive more into that. That's super cool. Well, before we get started, so we typically, I'm not sure if you had a chance to listen to any of our episodes, but we like
I
to
do.
start with this question. What is your number today on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being it's the best day you've ever lived. And just based on your virtual background, if I was in a place like that, I would just be in heaven. Listener, you can't see it, but it's just like really cool, like just amazing, relaxing place. Anyway, 10 to a 1 that you probably should not be going out and socializing today like you are. You should have stayed in bed. What's your number today?
Hmm. Michael, personally am a 9 today. I'm getting ready for a 5-day retreat with veterans that we're supporting this week. I'm also helping my father land the plane of his 55-year business. And so Michael in the world is probably at a 5, a little depleted, a little like, okay, we got 3.5 months left. Let's buckle down and yeah, just wanting to show up though with presence and yeah, so I'm full spectrum today is what I'm saying.
Excellent.
I love that. How do you navigate those two diverse numbers?
This is a more recent opportunity that I've been able to explore, meaning that both the business and Michael personally have really come together in the last 2, 3 months in a way that I'm pretty clear in the next couple of years of where this is going. And also, it acts as a pull forward so that I can stay resourced myself when I'm showing up for other things. I think in the past I would put all myself into whatever it was and empathy especially like that really can drain ourselves of what we need to do in our own place and then that creates a whole cycle of
Other
craziness. So
stuff, sure.
yep.
I love that. So you in your sign in it said Michael with the Zen Den is here. Um, I think when I knew you, and I could totally be butchering this because again, there was absence involved, but were you like doing real estate? Is that what you started off in, or is that wrong?
No, that is completely correct. I, did a couple different studies in my undergrad, and real estate was my primary focus, and ended up starting an apartment locating service in Chicago at the age of 24 back in
Hmm.
2004. And not
Impressive.
to age myself, but something that was just literally I moved to Chicago, and 2 weeks later we started a real estate company because that's what you do when you have no idea about the market. But we had other ideas on seeing Craigslist and a lot of the other things that most people weren't paying attention to, unfolding. And so we really capitalized on some of the other things that were going on that allowed us to quickly grow the apartment savvy.
Hmm.
That's amazing. Do you still operate that today?
No, so after a number of years, I ended up wanting to exit, and so ended up leaving that. Got involved with a study abroad startup, then moved back to Colorado after a little bit of travel and all the things that you kind of do as you process what is my next step, and got involved with wellness and specifically meditation while I was still in Chicago, helping bring meditation to public schools in the Chicago area. So it kind of somehow nudged me in this whole new direction, but it's actually the same direction, but just, different attributes of what I'm doing in a different environment.
What was that tipping point for you that was like, I'm here? Because I mean, what you're doing now is very different, or just I like your persona from what I can just see online, right? Has just changed, not your person, that's a bad way to put it, but like you're just in a totally different headspace. And you're like, listener, you can't see this, but he's like smiling and laughing because he knows I'm right. You know what I mean? Like you're a totally different person today than obviously in 20 years you grow and develop. But what was that tipping point to get back into meditation and to focus on that piece of your world?
Not to get into things too deep, but I think that there's usually what I see as life at some point is going to give you a tap, a nudge, and then kind of more of a slap. Meaning, it wants to steer you, and if you're not listening, it's going to nudge you in different direction, yeah, in different ways. And I think, with the business, I had kind of gotten to a place where it wasn't good for my health. There was just some things kind of going on, both with, the work environment and also the environment that I created around that. And so I just, really knew something needed to shift. And unfortunately, as I was in that process, my very dear friend, she was working with the David Lynch Foundation, and somehow, just said, "Hey, I know you need something. Check this out." And then yada yada yada. The river of wellness began, and it's really been such a very surrender effect experiment kind of thing, but it's been pretty magical.
This happened in Chicago or back in Colorado?
That was in Chicago.
And then you were like, that's it. I'm going to the place of all healing and getting back to the mountains.
I'm originally from Denver, and I did some other things in between. I lived in Bali for a little bit. I was in Montreal, and actually, it was when I was in Montreal, kind of saw Mount Royal, and where you had the hippies and the Hasidic Jews kind of hanging out, and it just reminded me of so much of what I knew Colorado and Denver and Boulder to be. And I was like, I think it might be time to see what that might be. And at the time, and still does, Boulder has one of the best tech scenes outside of San Francisco. And so just said, hey, I'm going to create a tech startup, and that's a whole nother story in between all of it. But again, just have followed the clues more and more. And I think the one thing, though, Jamie, to double click on is I knew I had to let go of the vine. I knew something needed to shift. And when you have, I think kind of this persona, this identity of what you think is you, it's really a meaningful opportunity to change that and to bring something new into your life. Hold on one second. Let me just turn that off. There we go.
Is the meditation program for schools still in effect?
Yes, we brought meditation into three public schools in Chicago at the time. I mean, obviously, that was 10 years ago, and things have shifted so much where that is not now a foreign thing. That is not now a thing that's strange. It's, something I think post-pandemic we know that we need.
More mainstream, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because my dad, so for my whole life, dad, you've probably been meditating for a long time, or you've always been into yoga, always been into like that meditation kind of yoga piece. But do you meditate too, Dad? I don't even know if you
No,
meditate.
just as I've studied some of the Eastern philosophies, done some of the Hatha yoga, just found it very, very rewarding. It's just better, just good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was like my influence of getting into yoga. And so when we were in Chicago was when I was really just getting into the yoga scene, and I was going to Core Power like 5 times a week. I think I've seen you to class, and I know there, whatever. But there's so much more to it. And so fast forward us to like today, you're like full in. You are like jumped in. You are doing like everything around health and meditation and wellness. And first of all, by the fact you got to live in Bali, I'm super jealous. I've always wanted to go there. Amazing. But it sounds like everything that you've done up to this point has been a part of your puzzle to, like you said, bring it full circle to today. So share with us like what space you're in now and what you're doing with all that now.
Sure. So, as I just kind of briefly mentioned, I had gotten into the wellness space. I had created a tech platform, kind of a wellness trip advisor. So, how do you discover wellness in different cities when you go there? Because from my own experiences, I'd go places and people say, "Oh, yeah, we don't have that," and then
Mm.
a day later, I'd reach out to my network and find places that did have that. And of course, again, that was back at a time where I think this was all still really just at that initial emerging point. A year and a half ago, or almost 2 years now, I got the opportunity with this Mindful Social Club that I had mentioned. We have this really beautiful wellness mansion in Denver, right by the aquarium. That it's got 4 stories. It had traditionally been a real estate company, and then they just had used the attic, which was this really kind of just storage space, converted it into this beautiful place that can fit about 50 people for, workshops, classes, things of that nature. And then they had other real estate locations that you could go with this magical key that you get as a member. And so what was nice about that is, again, it was this decentralized network of properties that were just underutilized, real estate spaces. And I think that's a trend that we're going to start seeing some more things kind of come around with. But the end of 2022, they decided to bring everything under one roof so that they could really bring, this kind of bigger picture together. So we have like a sauna cold plunge in the basement, an event space upstairs, and then they have four wellness businesses or spaces that they had on the second floor that they said, we really want specific types of companies to be here. And the owner reached out to me and said, hey, I know you're in the space. We'd love to have you here. I'd been a member since the beginning. And so I finally, after about 24 hours of saying there's no reason for me to start paying rent and take on more expenses, I stopped thinking that. And I just said, okay, I'm going to just watch and like actually see if I'm missing something here. And I noticed really quickly that I was because now that everything was coming under one building, the energy was shifting in front of
Mhm.
my eyes. And so I said, okay, can you give me, another 48 hours? And let me see if I can put some stuff together. And I had an instinct around something, but reached out to a couple different friends with some transformational technology and said, can we use this to see if this idea works? And we started the Denver Zen Den last year, and now we work with light, sound, vibration, and frequency specifically. And what we can do is create really unique state changes, specifically what we call sober psychedelic experiences. And what that means is you can have a psychedelic-like experience without the medicine. We can get more into that, but obviously with all this new awareness, both around psychedelics and also Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, I think there's a lot of curiosity of how do I get so out of my own head and back into my body more? How do I, what are the tools that are out there? And, of course, we have breath work, we have meditation, and I love that breath work specifically is kind of coming into much more of the public view now. But, so what we're doing is just a very accessible pathway for people to rediscover themselves.
Wow. So you're telling me that through sound and light, I can have a psychedelic experience that helps me heal from within and gets me better connected with myself, right in like the heart of Denver.
And resets your nervous system, which is, I think, the probably the most beneficial factor is that we keep so much caught up in the body that we do need to start understanding more somatic practices. And of course, these are, a little bit more newer things. So if you can just have the vibration and that vibroacoustical therapy done for you while you're also using the stroboscopic light, which is distracting the brain, the two together is pretty phenomenal because you're almost distracting that guard, that flight or fight system that's, usually online for everybody. And again, that's not something we want to completely cut off, but it doesn't serve its same purpose anymore.
Are these
So
experiences done individually or in groups?
both. Yes, most of the time at the Zen Den specifically, we'll do individuals or couples or two people at a time. But we've been doing big events such as the Colorado Conscious Entrepreneur Summit. We've done the National Ayurvedic Medical Association Conference up in Vail. We've done a range of things this year that really show us that this is applicable in lots of different sectors, and that those are more group experiences where we're doing anywhere from 10 to 50 people at a time.
It sounds like you created a space that's unique to you, correct?
Correct, but we can also do it very much a pop-up. So we are very portable, and that's kind of the neat thing about this is we can even bring this into nature. We can do this wherever it might be, and we're even supporting a very intimate retreat with veterans this week for 5 days. And to
Wow.
me, if we can start showing how these things can help with PTSD and again, coming back to the knowingness that we do have somewhere buried under there, that to me is a yes, please. I want to be a part of that.
No, so no boundaries at all.
I'm both
These
annoyed.
boundaries, yeah. I mean, except for, some of the different technologies, we just have to look for, a couple little things that, with, of course, stroboscopic lights, just that they haven't had any issues with that in the past. Or, vibration, even if you have some kind of device inside you. But, these are things that we have, in our intake process that we kind of flush out.
I'm both annoyed and excited at the same time. I'll tell you I'm annoyed because we were literally just in Denver like a week ago, and I would have loved to have come and experienced that. But excited because I go to Denver a lot. So I'm gonna have to like, can someone just do that? Can they just come? Like, oh, that's I guess my next question. Is it like a one session thing to where you feel that reset, or is it like you've got to do it a couple times to get the full benefit of it?
Course. It's a both yes and the initial experience for with without a doubt has a very meaningful impact where we have had especially some people recently that really have had significant changes where they've seen it over a couple days. When you're what we call as sensory saturation, you're pushing a lot of information through the computer, and what that's doing is defragging it. It's, just allowing it to release any of the things that no longer serves it. And if for some people, that is, I mean, that's the first time they've felt their own quietness in years. And I also have a very dear friend, who's a part of the Minnesota Twins, who also has come in. That he's just such a go 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 mind. He has never really experienced
Mm.
meditation, and he speaks quite profoundly around what his experience was and the value that it created. But at the same time, of course, if you're doing anything with neuroplasticity, you do want to create a repeatable process that does actually allow for a repatterning. But that's I'd say we have about half of our clients that are doing that.
How many veterans will be attending the 5-day seminar?
20.
And the sessions daily or multiple times during the day, the sessions?
So it's a stack, 5 day kind of thing. So there's going to be equine therapy. There's going to be a full range of things in a certain order that really creates this in and out kind of flow where people can go inward and then kind of come back to support and then up level that new baseline. So we're doing our technologies right now on Tuesday evening and then on Saturday during the day because we're also then bringing our technologies to a pretty big event on Thursday, 12/12 with Ram Dass Foundation and
Mm.
Trevor Hall, which is a pretty big musician and kind of the more, alternative, let's just say, uh, music about, just, yeah, it's beautiful music. I don't even know how I would describe it, but it's just a wellness music in a very profound way.
How many trained facilitators do you have on staff now?
So we have about what we kind of we have 10, I guess guides that we work with, but we also have a lot of coaches, therapists, and facilitators that either bring their own clients in. There's lots of ways that this kind of then actually can be deployed. We've actually created a wellness in a box kind of thing that businesses can bring in and start adopting this transformational technology into their own practices. Because if we can really start doing this in a way that's repeatable,
Mm.
to me, this is just going to start shifting things faster into our understanding that frequency is medicine. And just like Einstein has, said, frequency is the medicine of the future. And I think we're just at the beginning point where the Renaissance is now happening.
How did you discover that? Like, how did you discover the combination of the light and the sound would have this profound effect on people and the way that they operate?
Experimentation.
It is, and actually, I'll double click on that in a way that it's the 10-year-old hacker Michael that I think is mostly like excited. At the age of 10 was, we didn't even have, it was like AOL, if that even. I had 10 phone lines. Yeah. Oh, I had 10 phone lines coming into my parents' house, and I was getting checks sent to my dad's business, and he's like, "What is happening here?" And but again, it was such that emerging space. Music was starting to be shared a little bit, these things. So this, to me, is just a continuation of that. But I did have a couple good friends. One very dear woman who had been working with a specific type of light technology for a number of years that I was friends with, and just kind of started understanding what that was, but I didn't understand what the actual use case was. It created a great experience, but I wasn't so clear on how that would be deployed in a more consumer or public way. And so, again, just right time, right place, because I think both with the pandemic, we now know that there's just a lot more need for mental health, for what we call somatic hygiene, and just clearing out that energy. And then also, we have this emerging space of where psychedelics and or music and art, they're all weaving together. And so to me, it actually is perfect time for these things to come together. And then you also have the real estate side where I think wellness is the new creative. It is like that. It brings people into the property, and it's a great anchor tenant in a lot of ways. So I think it's a good place to be, and I think it's going to continue for the next number of years, not just a couple of years.
Michael, how big a part does sound play in your therapy process?
A very, very important part. We actually work with a technology called DSD audio, which is true analog audio. So most music that we listen to these days, it's PCM, it's a representation. So it's usually 162 kilohertz and 16 or 32 bit depth, and then the computer reprocesses it back together. What we work with, a dear friend of mine and his father, who's been kind of pioneering this for the last 20 years. This is 2.4 gigahertz, so 20 times the size of information, and it's only one bit, so it's just up or down. So just like the electric magnetic tapes back in the 70s, this is true full sound. And I think when we listen to vinyl or go to live music, we get that emotional component. And I always especially thought with vinyl, it's because the pops, that warm feeling. And what we're now recognizing is that there's actually something called time domain resolution. The ears don't hear the difference, but the brain actually can tell the difference because of how it's being interpreted, the information's coming in. And so we're in talks with Sony and some other companies on hopefully bridging music as a therapy into more mainstream, that it's not just a couple artists, that it's actually most music should be made with frequency in mind.
So hypothetically, because we're talking about utilizing sound, certain frequencies, as well as different light therapies, one could potentially at some point even create an app someone could do on their phone, no?
Oh, yes. There's completely ways. There's an app called Luminate, Lumenate. It just uses the flashlight on the phone, but you will sit in front of it. You'll point the backside of your phone towards your eyes, and you'll close your eyes. And what happens is your eyes are closed, but the optic nerve is still picking
Wow.
up the frequency. And because the brain's not getting images, it actually is like, wait, what's going on? So both it's creating a novel state, which of course the brain loves, and it's also then allowing the brain to start coming up with what is coming in. And so your brain will start to actually see colors that your eyes can't even see. The app, I'd say, is just a very, very much entry point to what our full experience is, because we're working with a, very high-end LED light system that, is made with the programs and the frequencies. This is, but again, a very entry point for that to happen. I don't know when the screen itself would get to the flicker rate or whatnot, but I think VR will probably be the next thing that would, hopefully be able to accommodate this. But at the same time, it is nice to also have technology that's specific for one thing,
So
because I
next
think
time I see somebody wandering around with their flashlight on, I can surmise they just came from the session.
well, hopefully
Not in your
not,
community,
not the
Dad.
Pokemon Go days where people are walking around with their phones in front of their faces. I remember that.
Not in his
But
community. They just forget. They
Watch
turn
it,
on by
watch it,
accident.
watch it, youngster. I think
That
over the years, I've told Jamie, I think we've minimized the impact that sound has on us in our entire world. And it can be transformational. You're actually doing that stuff right now. It's part of the process.
Oh yeah, and I'll even just say that yes, music is popular, but usually music is secondary. It's not something that you go and just say, I'm just going to listen to this album anymore. That's not a thing we do. We don't just sit there and fully, let go and immerse ourselves in a different world. And so if we can do that and also create some, light and vibration and,
Mm.
some other things, what we call IMAX for the soul. And I think that's going to be more and more of a thing as we get into AI and all this other technology. That's great, but how do we come back inward with that?
Am I listening to an episode of 60 Minutes here right now?
But you know what's fascinating is that like I'm starting to see a lot of, I guess it would be, so if they're like 18, 19, that's generation what? Generation
I don't figure those numbers out.
whatever. But a lot of them are going back to going and buying vinyl and
Mhm.
getting record players and wanting to like that's a trend right now. In the music. I'm not saying that music's negative, but like they're going because the sound is different. And I feel like you do, my daughter is, in elementary school, and like I hate the fact that when we listen to a song in the car, she can like go to the next song right away. We had to like actually hear, like the music was just different. Then now it's almost a different kind of a space there. But I love that you're talking about like you just feel something different from that sound of that vinyl and what it makes you just it feels like a little bit warm and cozier. Actually, Dad, that's what I want for the holidays. It's for my birthday. I want a record player. I'm telling you now.
Well,
I think you
I'll
bought me
get you
gifts for my
I'll
birthday.
get you a large piece of vinyl. That's okay.
There you go. But I remember, so like I had never been on a wellness retreat my entire life. And I was like huge into yoga for many years and I wanted to go on a wellness retreat. So last year, I had some big goals that I wanted to achieve, and I was super stressed out. My body reacted really badly to the stress to where I had this pain in my back. I couldn't function. I'm like, I need to go to a wellness retreat. Turns out it was once the event I had to do was over, the pain went away, but I still had the retreat booked. And I went and I did for the very first time a sound bath. And just laying there was probably maybe 50 of us in the room, laying on the ground on a yoga mat. And just that sound bath, the sound of the vibrations of those bowls was the most incredible. Afterwards, I've never felt that way before. I've never felt the way that I felt and how relaxed and calm, like an inner calm I felt. So is that as similar to what people are experiencing when they come and do what you're doing, or is it different?
It is. The one thing I want to just share that I think is a really interesting insight. So I've done a lot of different sound journeys and sound baths and all these different things and worked with different sound theories and applications. And, it's not always just about the comforting. It actually sometimes is meaningful to have things that actually activate the brain,
Hmm.
isochronic sounds or things that actually, just like food and just like life, we should be building a palate, and we do need to actually push that edge in these different ways. And so, quite often, these sound baths, especially when you get into gongs, they actually create a disruption, and that disruption, that sympathetic to parasympathetic action, actually can be the release. Quite often, just having soothing sounds like when you go into a spa, like I'm annoyed. Like I actually want more
More.
texture. That to me actually then will put me in that more homeostasis place. And also similar to the stroboscopic light that we work with, it's actually the shadow that gives the value. The shadow is actually what creates the full story. And if it was just the light on, yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, it's just like the sun. It feels nice, but it's not creating this whole experience. Just like if you actually laid under the sun under a tree, eyes closed. I'm sure you've done this before, or even if you've been on a train with the slats of a fence, it creates that hypnagogic state. It creates that
Mhm.
almost repetition that the brain's like, wait, what is this? This feels good. And so to me, it's actually using stimulus in some ways combined with that grounding anchor of frequency that really can create the full magic. And that's also, of course, a very good analogy for life, that the shadow creates our best moments. If we don't have the lows, we don't know where the highs are. And I also think that we can just hopefully cinch those up so they don't need to be such drastic highs and such drastic lows.
Love that. I wonder like if you flash back to like the 10-year-old that was like all into like the coding and for everything is about, then flash forward to your 24-year-old starting this really great successful apartment company to like where you are now. It's almost like three different people, but yet all with the same like foundation of growth and innovation and resilience and moving forward. Where does that come from for you?
Well, the theme that I think that I've picked up on is that they all actually are how do you help people find what they're looking for, but they don't know what they're looking for. And the other company I got involved in was a study abroad company that works with universities to get more students studying abroad. And what we realize is, life, these things are very big and overwhelming. Whether it's buying your first home, whether it's even moving to Chicago and renting an apartment, or studying abroad, or getting into wellness. It's very overwhelming. We have a lot of self-limiting beliefs. And so if we can have some stewards, some guides, some Sherpas that actually help that journey, I think that, that to me has been that full 12-year-old hacker Michael helping people kind of connect and discover all this new stuff, and the 20-year-old real estate Michael and the 30-year-old wellness Michael, now kind of this synthesis that I get to play in. And my dad started one of the, I think the first waterbed store in Colorado back in the 60s. But he was, actually teaching international economics and was going to potentially go work for the International Monetary Fund, and just stumbled upon something that just then grew into something more. And then he opened a jewelry store after, trading with the Zuni tribes down in New Mexico, and just all these different things that I think were instilled in me in a way that I didn't realize. And I think that was probably what was frustrating to me about, especially that initial kind of foray into business, that I really wanted to be more of an expression of me, not just me figuring out the business model of how to do things.
Now, that's incredible. I love that. Now, as he starts to wind down his 55-year career, is he going to be one of your guides in your wellness center? Have you recruited him to now come help you?
I think we're still searching for that hobby. We're we'll allow that part of the journey to be supportive. I bring things home to them on the regular basis, because that creates that kind of, just playful wonder back in our home. So at least that's where I'm bridging it now, and we'll see where the journey goes. But I think we have a couple last things to land the plane with, and yeah, I would hope that though someday. But at the same time, I just love seeing them, be curious about what I'm doing, and just a part of it. And it's also supporting people that they know and their friends. So it's actually a really full circle for me.
Michael,
Yeah.
question based upon the vibe I'm getting, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but the business model you have now, it can be very far-reaching all over the country, basically. Uh,
World.
well, is a goal to take the model you have and duplicate it?
Great question. So, we've this year's just been quite a big roller coaster. At the end of last year, we got a big article in one of the top publications in Denver around what we're doing with sober psychedelics, the Westward, and got a lot of notoriety. Then we won some awards this year. We've been in a really good spot to build that trust foundation. So the way that we're looking at it is we've had about 10 businesses or people already reach out and say, can we start Zen Dens? But they either
Mm.
already have an existing business, or, they're kind of, looking to just take those initial steps. So we've really created that business in a box that, we've already had, I think in the last 2 weeks that we just announced it, we're at 9 purchases. So that there will be 9 other places. We have one in Topanga Canyon, Hawaii, New York, Bellingham, Washington, all these different areas that I get to really help be a steward of, and collaborate like jazz, versus trying to do the franchise model, where I have to, everything has to clear by us, and
Sure.
that we're doing rev share. I think that there's ways to just actually create the tools and the support of what we've discovered with running our own business. And that to me actually creates so much more openness, where they don't even need a brick and mortar. You could just actually have a decentralized, company that you go do pop-up events at different places. And yeah, it gets exciting from that lens, because then I get to be intrigued by what's happening versus always having to think ahead. And to me, that's the new world that we're kind of getting into.
And if one wanted information on how pursuing it in their area, would they contact you directly or?
Yeah, so either you can come to our denverzenden.com website or Michael at Denver Zen Den, my email. But this new platform, this business in a box, I could not be more excited about. Mind Wave is what we're calling it.
I think this could be the final career stop. This could has innumerable consequences. It's great.
Yeah.
How often do you personally do the therapy?
A therapy or my own therapy?
The mind, the sound, and the light therapy, the Zen
I
Den
I
therapy.
do it pretty much almost daily. The reason also is that I'm working with a lot of people that are sending me stuff. It's almost like Christmas. Like I get all these new things that I'm, getting to explore and sit with, and also that, it really has changed my own meditation practice in a way that it's more of a conversation. I think we don't know a lot about light yet in
Mm.
uh, our own bodies with light. I mean, we're now discovering that our cells actually are communicating with light, in the photosynthesis way of like actually communicating that more reactive. It's much faster than the electrical currents and some of the other things that the body needs to do. So I think we just are at the beginning of knowing what all of this can do. And then again, impairment with other modalities, because if this wraps around somebody who's going through some EMDR, or this is supportive for somebody going through a breakup and needs a pattern interruption. I mean, these are all really beautiful things that we can have happen, but not from a very non-invasive pathway.
And anyone can just like I can get on there, I can book an appointment and come. Like I don't have to be a member, I can just show up and come for an appointment.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, I'm like booking a trip to Denver soon.
How long is the
Keep telling all
appointment
my
for
friends in
typically?
Denver to go now.
How long is the appointment for typically?
60 to 90 minutes we recommend, especially on the first session. You can have a drop-in as little as 10 minutes, to really actually have a state change. But we do think, especially for those first experience or two, to really be able to settle in, because it does take about 15 minutes or so for the body to really start saying, okay, I think I figured out what's going on here. Because just like Kundalini, or different types of yoga, or things where you're doing something new, the mind body is like, wait, what are we doing? Even if you're holding your arms out to the side for 3 minutes, you're not actually doing too much to the body. The mind body just is like, wait, I'm not supposed to be doing this, or what's going on here. And so there's just a little bit of that we'll just say nervous system down regulation that is really meaningful.
And once the effects are documented, I mean, for insurance purposes, preventative mental health has huge implications.
Yes, that's phase. That's one of the projects. I think we have 8 projects going on right now, but we're working with both cancer patients as well as their families, because it's not only the person going through it, it's the support system that needs to also have that deregulation, and that downregulation, and defragmentation is what I was looking for. And I think that this upcoming week will show me some insight with what's going on with the VA side, with veterans and PTSD, and maybe that there's some pathways there. Um, I just get to be curious, and to me, I'm hoping this, because the whole industry will then have so much
Absolutely.
more support, and that's what's
That's what
neat.
that's the definition of disease is the body is dis at ease with itself. And when we get into the relaxation state, it creates all different hormones in the body itself, and things function a lot better.
Yeah. And we are working with, neuroscientists and people around the brain waves. We do track our sessions, every now and then when we bring in high-end equipment. We also will do it with the Muse EEG head device, that is a little bit more consumer grade, but we very much are looking to put some validation. There already is a lot out there, especially around stroboscopic light. MIT's looking into it with Alzheimer's and brain plaque, and like how can we again just excite the brain so it
Mhm.
actually starts to work again? I mean, that's, to me, it's the most simple thing. We just have really forgotten how that support can happen from both the community and from within.
You're in a portal to the future. There's no question about that. Like I've told Jamie in the past, there are so many of features and the nature of our universe that we don't understand. We talk about the airplanes. The principles that make the airplanes fly was always available in our Earth. It just wasn't discovered until the Wright brothers came up. The planes getting lift. But in an opening now, in the portal you're opening, it's going to a great future for all of mankind, basically.
It's a perspective shift, is what I'm also hearing you say. And I highly recommend your listeners to check out a term called the overview effect. There's a very dear gentleman, Frank White, who coined this term back in the 70s. But when astronauts go into outer space, there is a documented thing that happens, and it's called the overview effect. It's when they look back at the Earth, something shifts in them. And it's been written about by several astronauts now, documented with over 50 astronauts. I mean, this is not just a one-off
Mhm.
thing. Doctors Without Borders, Earth Day, those were all started by astronauts because they saw the need for us
Mm.
to come back together when they see that thin blue veil of the atmosphere and just this, to me, it is the future of how we need to be thinking. And I think that, a lot of people question why we're doing all this space exploration. And I think that there's a lot more to it than just trying, to get these billionaires on Mars. There's a lot of people really seeing that we need to have that
Mm.
perspective,
Wow.
just like we, now understand weather patterns and these things. There's something about us for humanity. So there even is a foundation called Space for Humanity that sends entrepreneurs into outer space so that then they can come back and be more profound in
Productive, sure,
that they're
creative.
doing.
Wow.
And yeah, so if we can create those types of experiences in a way that you don't have to leave the atmosphere, yeah, count me in.
Whoosh.
Wow. I don't even like that. I think
And
that's
Jamie, you're gonna teach this guy pickleball, right?
yeah. Yeah, do you fit in pickleball anywhere in that pattern of
Flow state. It's all about flow state and pickleball. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got you.
It's interesting. I do say, like all those things, like they are so life changing. And I agree with you. We have a massive mental health crisis happening right now. And the more people that can figure out a way for us to help other people, the better the world will be. And everything that you've said, and as I'm hearing you talk, it's never been like I'm truly hearing come out of you. Like I feel it pouring out of you, how much you just want to help others. And I think that is just so awesome. Like I just love like it's just like hearing you talk. Like you just really are just trying to do whatever you can from the students meditating to, even when doing the apartment thing right back in the day or when you were your 12-year-old coder, like just helping other people. And I love that that is that baseline of everything that you do. I think it's awesome. I think you're amazing.
Well, thank you. And it's been a beautiful journey to know you along the way and your sister and yeah, all the things.
I'm gonna make her go do it. And by make her, I'm gonna make her come. She's right around the corner from you.
I
There's
know, I
why
know. I've seen her
she
out here.
is, I mean, she needs to like go down and figure this out. Both my sisters are there. I'm gonna tell them to go and do this. I just think it's awesome. And we are here to support you, however we can. And, I just think the journey, what you're doing and the discoveries that you're making of having to help other people find their peace in a safe, way and not having to fall back on the actual like psychedelic piece of it. Not that that's not safe. I don't know. I've never done it. But like in this way that's really triggering them to become their best self is just awesome.
I just hope when I visit your office, your environment, I can get the same sense of the serene stream flowing in the back of the because if it's anything less than that, I'll just be very disappointed. The visual is great.
Question for you, is it an individual session the first time that you come, or is it a group session the first time that you come?
So in our office, because I like to do the full setup, we have these things called the Bliss Pod. So it's this big AirPod that you lay in that's got a sound system underneath it that was developed over a couple of years that separates the low frequencies in a way that if you listen to a wave, it'll actually move through the body. And then you have this vibrational vest, and then you have your own light. So it's kind of, again, this like whole little pod experience. And then we have two of those set up there. So, we can have two people going at the same time. We do have the big event space upstairs. We can do, groups, 6 to 8 with that really easily. Or then when we bring it to more public events, we'll put them horizontal. We'll have 2 or 3 lights going at once, and then we do more group sessions.
Wow. And everyone can go to your website to see any events that you're doing and how to connect with you. They just go to Denver Zen Den, is that right?
That is
.com?
correct. Mhm.
Are the costs of getting a portable pod also on the website? if one wants to
Yeah.
read it.
So yeah, if at the bottom, there's some links to the mind wave and this other information that's out there, so you can actually see. There's not only the devices that we use. There's some technology that's more like wearable. That you have this little headband on, and you have this little light system that hangs in front of your head. Another thing that hopefully you aren't seeing people walking around in the streets using. Hopefully they're more being.
You mean Ray-Ban hasn't discovered a way to create that in their glasses yet?
Yeah,
I've got a set of those.
Yeah,
Michael,
Meta's on it. Meta's working on it, I'm sure.
a question about neuroplasticity. Uh,
Mhm.
is there any age at which you can't kind of recreate some of that stuff?
that you cannot.
That you're getting, well, apparently it's mostly available when people are younger. Their learning curve is enhanced dramatically. But don't you lose some of that plasticity as you age, no?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I also think that we very much are in the nascent stage of like understanding that. So I think that's based off of what existing technologies are out there. I think that these types of things, are so profound, different. And again, it's working with the body's own, environment and its own processes. I mean, this is all from within. The funny thing is when you come in, the light, it's all white. But you're seeing colors and everything that people lose their mind. They thought that the room was filled with this whole kaleidoscope, and it's all from within. So I would be I wouldn't want to say, oh, it's only for younger people. I think that neuroplasticity is for everybody, and I think that it's just important in different ways of what we're using it for.
And are some of the specific therapies designed for a specific result, or are the therapies themselves kind of all holistically, working on you?
Sure. I would say that we mostly, in the therapeutic side, we pair with people that have
A condition.
training, yeah, that have that deeper training. We're more a complement where we can again deregulate and down, kind of clear out that system and make it much more available. Or some, quite often also we just through the journal prompts and the set and setting, people can move through some pretty big things just by themselves because it's not, ignoring something. It's not denying anything from the past or our projections of the future. It's just about, allowing us to come back and say, I'm safe. I have control and what's happened's happened. And letting that energy go though, Body Keeps the Score, one of my favorite books that, just those things are the issues are in the tissues. Yoga will say that, these different things, but I truly believe it is just clearing out that computer system that, can be a very big foundation that pairs well with any other modality.
Mm.
Well, I think everyone, like experiences things like that probably differently, right? Like you were saying, like we all have different trauma that maybe, different levels and different places that we're at, different things we need healing from, but just opening up that mind of just giving you that sense of calm that many of us don't ever experience, and I'm laughing because it's like calm. What is that word? But just that clarity too, right? We've talked to a couple different people who've been on the podcast, who they've talked about, like one gentleman, he went into a dark room for 5 days and fasted and was in like pitch black. And I'm like, that is extreme. Like, I don't know. First of all, my claustrophobia would not allow me to do that. But that's a pretty big,
Yeah, but that's all deprivation.
yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
just like a float tank, that's sensory deprivation as well. I
yeah,
think we're actually in the same river.
Mhm.
We're just sensory saturation. So we're just
yeah,
at the other end of the spectrum. I think as you were just saying, which path is easier and more approachable?
yeah.
I'm not saying that there's a better option. I think that I know lots of people that have done cave work and that sensory deprivation. I think that's profound. I think it's a both and, but we get a lot of moms coming in. I'd say that's about half of our clients because they're just like I'm just losing my sense of self. I just am so focused on these other attributes
Mhm.
that I think that these are again meaningful ways that we can be really supportive in ways that are approachable and actually can fit into our schedule, and also that we're not having to go
Oh,
somewhere else
absolutely.
to retreat. We need to build the habits where we are. We need to actually learn how to regulate where we are. And we're also helping with resilience is the other word I would say that we help people build, because again, we're creating that activation for the body, and the body's like, wait, what's going on? Resilience is the body knowing it can actually adjust in the subconscious. It's not the mind, it's
Mhm.
actually everything else that's like, oh, I got this. And when you switch into that, you know, yeah,
I
it's
think I need
When
to plan like a mom's retreat to Denver.
if it's that quality also. When did this first kick off, Michael?
The Zen Den opened, I mean, probably opened to the public in March of last year.
I think you're destined for huge things. This has been a fascinating broadcast. It's totally cutting edge stuff, but it's simple, it's effective, it's proven, and it works.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you for taking time out of your day to share with us about your world. It's so good to see you. It's been a hot minute. And I love that that's how life is, right? Like people come into your life for a reason, a season, a lifetime, and that you're always forever connected. And I just think it's so cool that we're able to connect again today without absinthe. Just kidding. Well, you don't know what's in here. No, I'm kidding.
How did you find them again, Jamie? You've been in
We've been
touch with
connected on Facebook, and I think we're connected on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on like we're connected, we're just super connected. And so, like, and that's that's the like the one thing that I think about like social media that's great is that you don't always get a chance to stay talking to people every day because life just it gets crazy, but you get to be connected still when you know that you are still connected. So anyway,
I
so
love it.
I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
I
Thank you
appreciate it. Yeah.
so much. We are so grateful. We look forward to seeing you soon in Denver. We're gonna come. Dad, you in?
I'm in. If someone's got to drive.
I am not letting you drive because then I would need like more than 90 minutes in that thing.
I knew you'd agree to drive. That's why I said it. Michael's superb. Great meeting you.
Pleasure, pleasure. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's
Thank you.
appropriate.
Don't be a stranger. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time we're in Denver.
All right.
Double namaste.
Yes. Yes.
Have a
Thanks,
gentle day.
Michael.
Bye.
Appreciate you. All right. Bye. Thanks. Wow, Dad. That's all you. I knew you would
That's
love
strong.
it.
Let's set one up here.
How do you do that?
His pop-up.
Oh, like bring him here?
No. He's like selling a franchise. He's selling the mechanics. You can set
Yeah.
up something here, and like it doesn't have to be even in brick and mortar space.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to Denver Zen Den. Let's take a look at it.
I'll tell you, because I mean, the therapy itself, once it can be, like he's doing veterans this weekend, if they can in some way document or publish a paper based upon that, I mean, they're using mushrooms now for therapy itself. The implications are so far ranging for benefits of light and sound and vibration, all things that have been around for since we've been here.
Well, and we've spoken with a few veterans, we've spoken with other people who are healers, and it's kind of like the combination of all of that, right? Like I think it's
Yeah, but he knows his stuff so well. He's living and breathing this.
yeah. Well, and he did downplay his like major success that he had with his business in Chicago. It's incredible, and it just sounds like he's got that mindset, that brain that
Which one,
just
the apartment finding or?
yeah. But he's just like he's like one of those people I feel like everything he touches turns to gold.
Does he have time to be married?
I don't know. I didn't ask about his personal lifestyle. I don't know. I don't know.
I like that background with the stream flowing and the salmon's jumping up the water and the
I
opposite.
liked it too, but it's made me kind of have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I want to follow up with this guy. To me, this is a
Yes.
very, because with all the therapies you have, this is a combination that it works on yourself, your own body, your own mind expressing itself and kind of cleansing and defragging itself. I think the benefits are great.
And then we can like, I would love it. I mean, the thing is like, I really meant it. Like, I know it was not to this extreme, but yoga saved my mental health.
Oh, no question.
I remember like if you had not introduced me to yoga, I probably would not have wanted to do it so much. But I used to go 4 times a week. And there were sometimes I would just go in there and I'd lay on that mat and I would just like close my eyes and just cry because it was just a release. But I think that everybody's walking around with heavy stuff, whether you're retired, whether you're a mom, a
Oh,
dad, a
no
friend, or
question.
something. And I think that this is not a scary way to do it, right? I personally would not want to go do psychedelics to go do that. Like just not, it's not part of my life. I don't judge
Yeah,
anyone.
understand something. The psychedelics are an artificial way of stimulating your brain for change.
Yeah.
Your brain is so dynamic, you don't need the artificial stuff to put in. So if you can go to one session with him and see some benefits,
Yeah.
when yoga years ago, yoga in this country, you wouldn't even talk to someone he's a weirdo. It's become so mainstream. People have realized the calming, emotional, mental benefits of yoga. We like 44 decades from when I first got involved with it. Now what he's doing, to me, this is a gateway.
Yeah.
It's opening. I'm going to jump on Zen Den Denver real soon. What's going on?
But isn't it funny? It's incredible because we've talked to people about Reiki. We've talked to so many people who are,
Sure.
like it's just interesting. And I mean, this is why we do this podcast. We meet the coolest freaking people. I love it.
Well, we are the coolest freaking people. So meeting other
You
people
are.
like us,
You are, Dad. You're the coolest freaking person. You are.
good day today. They're all good days. This is in my wheelhouse. I like this.
I knew you would like it. See? All right. I love you, Daddy.
I'll see you in the Zen Den, baby.
All right. Until next time, everyone, that's his story. We can't wait to hear yours. If you have a story that you want to share, or you know somebody that we should be sharing their story, have them head on over to jamiemarco.com/podcast. They can submit their information there, or you can submit for them. If you've been listening to our podcast, you see it's just a conversation. We never know what we're going to get, and it's amazing. I love it.
Happy trails, everybody. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, thank you for tuning into today's What's Your Story podcast.
To learn more or share your story, go to jamiemarco.com. That's www.jamiemarco.com. And we will see you next time.